Hi, guys. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me again for this practical application approach to paying yourself first. Okay. It's the profit first approach to budgeting. And I really just want to build off of Bella's boutique, who owns she's launching an organic body care business. And she's going to do it in the next 3 months. And I really wanted to base how you are going to set yourself up to pay yourself and make money from your business. All right, so let's go over here to Chatty. Now, if you remember on my goal setting practical application video that I did, I showed you guys how you could create a SMART goal using ChatGPT, or who we like to call Chatty, using her as a resource to go ahead and make a SMART goal. Well, let's go ahead and build that on now, because you can make a SMART goal on how to launch your business. But one of the things that we need to really think about is how are you going to budget yourself in order to launch your business? And so let's just come over here to ChatGPT. I want to show you what I did. So building off of the same exact thread I was already using for the SMART goals, I went and I asked ChatGPT, I said, considering our SMART measurable goal was to generate at least 100 online orders in the first month of operation and participate in a minimum of 3 local events or markets per month. And just so you can see where I got that information is, when I asked ChatGPT to help create a SMART goal to launch Bella's boutique, the first thing it said is your specific goals here, right? Establish an online presence and develop partnerships. But the first measurable goal was get 1,000 followers on social media, get 100 online orders, and participate in 3 local events. Well, I didn't include budgeting for 1,000 followers because most social media following is going to come organically in the business. You will not be paying in order to gain followership. I think that's a word. Anyways, you're not going to be paying to get subscribers and followers to your social media account. Most of that is done organically when you're first starting your business. So I really wanted to focus on how could you budget for 100 online orders, and how could you budget for participating in local events. And that's why when I came down and I asked ChatGPT to create those budgets, I asked her, I said, please, generate or create a mock-up budget based on the profit first approach. So considering your SMART goal, your SMART measurable goal, generating at least 100 online orders in the first month of operation, participating in a minimum of 3 local events per month, can you create a mock-up budget based on the profit first approach? And so here's ChatGPT. Chatty came back and said, certainly. To create a mock-up budget based on the profit first approach for your organic body care and clothing store, we'll allocate funds to areas while focusing on profitability and cash flow management. The goal is to ensure that you can generate at least 100 online orders and participate in 3 local events per month while maintaining financial health. Below is a simplified example of how you might structure your budget. Now, I do want to reiterate, she is saying this per month. Of course, when you're launching, and I think Chatty, she does a great job, but some things do get a little wonky, and it's really going to take common sense or human touch in here to kind of clean things up, as she says. But the goal is not just to get at least 100 online orders and participate in only 3 events per month. The idea was to launch your business and get 100 online orders in your first month and participate in local events. And then grow, right? Because the idea of business is to grow. So I do want to reiterate that this part is a little wonky when it comes from her, but it is a good basis to start a budget, right? And so she goes and she comes up with a simplified example of how you could structure your budget. And so let's take a look at it. First, she talks about revenue allocation, right? Which is your sales income. So if you're getting 100 online orders and assuming that the average order value is $100, the estimated revenue is $10,000. Now, again, this is just a mock-up. This is not real numbers. So your average order value could maybe be $50. And in that case, that would change that from 10,000 to 5,000. This is part of where you would need to know how much you're charging for an item and how many items do you expect to sell in a sale. So if your average item value is $15, in this case, let's say we're selling organic soap and our organic soap costs $15. Well, if we're selling 3 of those soaps in an average order, then our average order volume would be $45 per order. Okay. And in this case, if we had 100 online orders, the average income coming in a month would be 4,500. So this number will change depending on what your average order value is. And at this point, Bella's Boutique is based on the idea that you've already been selling to friends and family or to coworkers. So you might already have an idea of how many people are buying at one time, and you can project what your sales could be. Okay. And the profit first approach that we covered in a previous workshop is all about making sure that you're paying yourself first. Allocating profit to yourself is just as important as making sure you have enough money to reinvest in your business, if not more important. Okay. Chatty came in and said operating expenses allocation. So I really like how she broke this down because this is pretty accurate. Okay. If you're bringing in $1,000 a month, about 70% of that's going right back to expenses. And she broke down the expenses. She said production costs, maybe about 30% of your revenue. So in this case, if it's based on a $10,000 budget, it's $3,000. Marketing and advertising. Again, when you're first starting out, marketing and advertising is probably not going to be as much as, say, if you've already have an established business. Most marketing and advertising is going to go into maybe buying a few paid ads on Facebook to drive traffic to, say, your Facebook page. Or it could be if you're already on a web platform, say Etsy, or if you're on maybe a Walmart or Amazon or something like that, you're paying a minor amount to bring traffic to your product. But this 15% of revenue, this number is probably a little bit inflated, especially for someone who's just starting out. Website maintenance and hosting, 5% of revenue. Again, it really depends on where you're hosting your website and how many other platforms you're on. Event participation costs, it could be $1,500. Yeah, if you're going to multiple events during the week, that can add up to about $1,500, depends on how many events you're going to. And then miscellaneous expenses. I like this because you just never know. There's stuff that pops up all the time in business. It's a pretty good saying that if you can't plan for anything, you can plan for shit happening. And that's pretty much what happens in business. It's stuff that just happens. And you don't plan it, but it happens. And then owner's compensation allocation. So you have profit, and then you have owner's compensation. They're two different things. Okay. Owner's compensation is a draw that is paid to the owner. So it is the owner's salary that comes back to them. And in this case, ChatGPT went ahead and said, hey, let's plan for 20%. Again, these are mock-ups. These are mock-ups on a salary, or I should say on a budget for launching Bella's Boutique. Let's go ahead and bring up Google Sheets. All right, so we've got Google Sheets over here. Let's go ahead and paste in what I copied over from ChatGPT. So let's go ahead and let's make this for Bella's Boutique, okay? I'm just going to insert one row above. Let's say Bella's Boutique, okay? And, let's just imagine that she's really just honed in on selling organic soap, right? And I think one of the things that if she hasn't already gone and did her research on how much the average value of soap or how much a bar of organic soap is going for online, or if she's already has experience selling to friends and family, let's just say, and this is theoretical, let's just say that her average sale per bar of soap, right? Let's just say it's $15. Okay. So average sale, or I should say average price per bar of soap is $15. And then let's just say the average bars per purchase, okay? Or per sale. I think that's a more accurate terminology. The average bars per sale is 3. So that means her average cart order is $45. Okay? So really then the total revenue per month, if we're talking about the average, where are we at here, is 100 orders, online orders. So then we're really looking at this total revenue being more like 4,500. And this is going to be a realistic number for someone who's just starting out in a 3-month launch for a business. Okay. And I'm going to leave this profit here. Let's go ahead and leave this blank for right now. We're going to leave no percentage here, because one of the hardest things that people come across, that I find many business owners that are just starting out, is them naming a particular profit percentage they can pay for themselves, because most of them don't know their numbers yet. So that's why we're here right now. Now, let's talk about expenses. Expenses typically are 70%. Okay, now let's break down where the expenses would be coming from. And so if you look over here, ChatGPT came and said, this is your expenses, 70%. They broke it down to product costs, marketing, website, event participation, miscellaneous expenses. We're going to redo those numbers. So let's just say over here now we've got expenses, and let's highlight this in bold and underline. All right, because this is going to be in addition to this. All right, or I should say all of these add up to expenses. So actually, let's do this. Control X, make it a little bit easier to read. Okay. Product cost. So let's go ahead and assume now that it costs in what I find most people who are just starting out, especially if you're selling in, say, like a farmer's market, or you're selling to your friends and family, most like to take the cost of what they paid to make it, not including their time, and multiply it by 3. So for example, let's take our friendly little calculator over here. What I find most people do is if something costs them $5 to make, they'll go ahead and multiply it by 3 and sell it for 15. Or if it costs $5 to make, they multiply it by 4 and they sell it for 20. Let's just assume that Bella over here is deciding to sell her items for $15 because it costs her $5 to make it. Okay. So in this case, the product cost here, if she's selling 100 orders and the average sale is $3 or 3 bars per order, that means she's going through roughly 300 bars of soap. Did you read me there? So if she's doing an average per sale is 3 bars, right? And we multiply that by 100 orders, means that it's 300 bars that she's selling per month. So now we have to take that 300 and multiply it by 5, which means 1,500 of that is going right back into her product cost. Okay. Marketing and advertising, I'm going to put this real minimal. I'm just going to say $150 because when you're just starting out, you're not pouring a lot into marketing, especially if you're a small, homemade, handmade, business. You're not pouring a lot into marketing and advertising, not yet anyways. Website maintenance and hosting, again, it's not going to be 500. If you are Bella's Boutique, she's really focused on farmers markets, event markets, night markets, friends and family, word of mouth through social media, which means that she's typically only going to have either her website and maybe the Etsy store. And in that case, she's not going to be going over $150 a month. Event participation costs. This is where it can get a little bit pricey depending on the event itself. So if you're doing farmers markets are typically $30 to $50 per market. And if you're doing them 3 times a week, so you do the math, let's say top line, $50. Okay, $50 per market. You're doing it 3 times a week. There's 4 weeks in a year. You're spending about $600 in just your fees just to sell at that market. And now miscellaneous expenses. I'd like to keep that at 500. I think that's very accurate, keeping that at 500, or even if you want to go ahead and just plan for a really rainy day and just say 1,000, because miscellaneous expenses could be your taxes, your permits. It could be filing your taxes with an accountant. There's a fee associated with that. It could be the gas going to and from these events. It could be maybe you needed to buy some more packaging material in order to get these items shipped out. There's a bunch of other expenses that could be wrapped up into selling Bella's organic handmade bars. So I think a safe number of $1,000 is good. Now, this number will change. And this is the thing, as time goes on, as months go by, Bella's going to start seeing that, hey, she's consistently spending $200 in packaging materials for her bars. So then what will end up happening is it would be one of her categories here would be packaging expenses. Maybe she's starting to ship out her orders quite a lot. And so now she needs to factor in postage. Postage would end up being one of the items on the list that becomes allocated for. But let's just go ahead and wrap it up to $1,000 right now for miscellaneous expenses until Bella can start seeing a common expense occurring on a monthly basis. Let's go ahead and add up now. So we've got $1,500 for product cost, $150 for marketing, $150 for website, $600 for all the events she's going to, plus another $1,000 in miscellaneous expenses. That adds up to $3,400. Now, the funny part is, remember I told you that usually expenses is 70%. So if her total revenue is $4,500, right, and her expenses are $3,400, and her total revenue is $4,500. 75% of what she's making is going back into her business, right? And this is the part that a lot of I think a lot of starting out entrepreneurs and business owners have, is that, the expenses are grossly underestimated because they go in thinking the only associated cost they have with that business is what it costs them to make the product. When in actuality, there's a lot of other expenses that go into the operational side of business that don't get accounted for. And so they're grossly upset when they find out they're running in a deficit versus a profit. But having this will help. So now that you know that 75% of every dollar you make, so 75 cents of every dollar you make is going right back into the business for these costs that are non-negotiable. They're needed in order to run your business, right? That means that you're really only left with 25 cents of every dollar being able to take profit from or using for expansion. Okay. And so here we have owner's compensation. When you're first starting out, you cannot pay yourself a salary. Unfortunately, that's really what kind of happens to a lot of large. And I'm not talking about the big conglomerate, big corporation that just start out and they already know how to run a business exceptionally well. I'm talking about us, the small business, the small entrepreneur who's just launching their business from their home or from a farmer's market or online. I'm speaking to you guys. Owner's compensation is off the table. So let's just go ahead and change owner's compensation to, I'm going to say savings. Okay. And the reason why I'm going to say savings is because if you're able to put away money in your savings account, this is where you start having an account that's building up money in order for you to dip into for future ventures. So if you want, later on, you decide you want to add a new product line, or you want to add some more scents, and you instead of selling the same 10 different soap scents that you had, you want to go ahead and expand into other scents and other, maybe you want to start lotions or whatever. You want to start expanding your product line. You now will have money sitting in a bank that you could go ahead and draw upon in order to take those chances. So let's say savings, and we're going to go ahead and say this percentage is if you already have 25% left over, right? This is the 25% you get to play with. So taxes, especially when you're first starting out, are not going to be a lot because you're going to be spending more than you're making, right? So let's just go ahead and say 5% for taxes. So you're looking at $225 needs to be put away a month for taxes. Savings. Let's go ahead and say the same thing. 5%. Okay, so between savings and taxes, you're putting away 10%. And then that means for your profit over here, you're going to be putting away, what is that leaving us? 15%, right? So 4,500 times 15, profit is 675. Okay, this is really the profit for your company is 675. Is that the amount that's going to be going directly in your pocket? No. We talk about profit first. If you revisit that, go ahead and revisit that module, and you will see that I talk about how profit is separated. But this could be money in your pocket, but it could be for other things as well. So this is the profit that your company has experienced. Out of $4,500 that you make, $675 is what you technically profit. And yes, part of your payment can come from that $675. And my recommendation is going to be pay yourself what you absolutely need in order to continue doing that business. However, most of it should be going back into either savings or taxes in order to grow your business. But this is just a breakdown of how Profit First works. A lot of times when people see a $675 left over, or they're not even thinking of savings, they're taking $675. What would $675 plus $225? They're taking the $900, right? And they're going back in and reinvesting all of it back into production, or they're taking $900 and they're pocketing it, which is going to leave them stagnant on growth. So this is something to think about on how to budget yourself when you're first starting out. Really, depending on your industry, look at what your production costs are. Marketing and advertising, you should not be paying a lot for that when you're first starting out. Most of it should be word of mouth. Website maintenance, I believe everyone, no matter what industry you're in, need to have a website. It's a digital age. Have a website. With all the AI tools out there, there's no reason why you can't have one built in one day. Event participation costs. I would dare say this doesn't just apply to anyone in a farmer's market. This can be if you're an electrician, you should be going out to certain events and talking about your business. If you're a consultant, you should be out in events talking about your business. If you are a YouTuber, you should be at events connecting with other YouTubers. So event participation costs, it doesn't matter the industry you're in, this should be an allocation on there. And then miscellaneous expenses will be broken down further. As you continue in your business, you will see reoccurring costs, and those reoccurring costs will end up becoming their own line item. But for right now, since you don't know what these hidden costs and expenses are yet, right, because they need to be tracked, wrap them up into miscellaneous expenses. Just plan for the unknown. That's the easiest way to make sure that you can stay aligned in your budget and not go over budget. Okay? All right, guys. I hope this helped. Profit First is a fantastic book. Please pick it up if you can. Mike Michalowicz, he goes into depth more than I did on my module for Profit First approach. However, you want the condensed version, you want the sage version of Profit First, go back and rewatch my workshop. It is an excellent source of information. And if you have any questions, as always, please reach out to us, sageconsultants.com. You can go to our Facebook group and reach out to us there. You can also go and comment on our Books and Booze podcast that we have on YouTube, and like and subscribe to us there, where we highlight one book a month that goes over the business mindset, growth mindset, leadership mindset, and actually we cover Profit First. So, guys, please join us. You can find us anywhere, and we are highly accessible. So if you have questions, and if you would like help on doing this for your particular industry, reach out to us. We would love to help and assist you. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao.